Okay, so by overwhelmingly popular demand, you guys chose to for me to build the Roma Lite next, and we're gonna go through the part. We're gonna build it my way. We'll go through all of that in a minute. I just have a few comments to make before this. I did repair the DJI version, the big guy. Now this is, the Lite is considered the analog frame, but we're going to use the Nebula in there so it'll fit in the frame. So it has a few little differences that I'm going to show you here in a minute. But overall, this is a 226 and the Lite is only a 218. So the arm length isn't really all that big of a deal. Much of a change. It's all in this fuselage. As you can see, the difference in size in the fuselage is there because of the the carrying of the air unit, which for freestyle I'm not a big huge fan of the air units being in here. It looks like a freaking ant or something with that big body sticking off the back, and with that weight of the air unit, you get some rear end swagger in there, I guess you could call it. You can't get as tight cones when you do rolls and stuff like that. You can feel it swinging around a little bit, but it is what it is. And anyway, this is back together. I'm pretty excited to do the Roma Lite because I think we're going to be able to hit around 600 grams, 620 grams, which is going to be far lighter than this. I'm still not a huge propriety fan of however you want to say it, of these being cast aluminum, because as you can see, the one snapped. I hate to keep harping on this, but I do think it's a very important point because it snapped off right at the screw, and I think if this was like a milled aluminum, that this would not have broken in the way that it did. But anyway, I'm gonna send this. I have a couple people at Diatone direct connect on my WeChat. I can send them messages right away. So if you guys have anything you want to add or say or any improvements, I want to give them feedback, because as you saw in my first videos of building this one, I was really a big fan of the engineering that went into this and the way it went together and everything. So I'm not gonna give up on them totally. Hopefully we can help them make a few improvements with a few suggestions. I'm gonna send this video to them directly when we're done, because I have a few things on the bench here that I'm gonna show you guys that came with the kit that I think they need to change a little bit. So let's get right into it. I'll give you the parts list and how I'm gonna build this thing, and then we'll slam the frame together and all that stuff. I got a little secret for you guys. It usually takes me about a week to do a build, and when I do these build videos, it's no different. I usually just leave everything in place on the bench when I finish and walk away and come back the next day and start shooting again or bring it. So yeah, I'm slow about building. So yeah, let's get right into the parts and the stuff here. Alright, so as I said, we're going to build this one my way with my parts and the way I want to do it. So we're not going to be using any of this plastic stuff at all. I'm going to use the HQ skids that Jong sent me, the Rotor Riot skids. I really like these. For one reason, I feel that when you bolt these together with the motor, it really makes a solid, helps hold the arm together. So when you bang on the tip here or whatever, the arm doesn't separate. So there's that. A couple other things. Let's go through the parts first. We're going to be using these Brother Hobby Avenger motors. They are the 2350 kVs. You guys can see that. 2207.5, the V3s. These are supposed to be like optimal for 5S, which is what I fly, is 5S. So there's those. We're going to be using this T-Motor F55 Mini with the Talon F7 flight controller that has a VTX switch on it that I'm going to wire into the try to wire into the Nebula Pro so it can be turned on and off. And this, you know, so this is analog size, so it's going to fit in this frame fine. But I want to try to put this on the VTX switch. Like I'll just put it on an auxiliary switch somewhere that I never use, just so I can flip it off when like I crash in a tree or on top of a building or I'm stuck somewhere, so this little Vista guy isn't just sitting up there burning up. Or if I want to plug it into the computer and do something, I don't have to have you know, check the ESCs or whatever. If the battery's plugged in, this doesn't have to be on. I can flip it, turn it on and off. So we will see how that goes. I may or may not use, this is the mount that comes with the DJI version, because it doesn't need the antennas because it has the little antenna holders cut into the back of the frame. And I think this might be for like a GPS or maybe a held gate buzzer or something like that. But I didn't use that because it would have only been holding, I don't have the GPS on there or anything like that. But on the Lite build, we may or may not use this depending on where the weight comes, because it does have the little antenna mount here. And I probably actually won't use this stock antenna that comes with the Vista. I got some from Rush FPV that are custom long ones, so it gets way up away from the frame and the battery. And then put the crossfire in there. I may use this on this build. I am not 100. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I also found a 3D Sessions mount that fits on here. But this is one of the crappiest freaking prints I have ever seen. In fact, the one that I put on the big guy over here to continue with the testing, it cracked down here as I was installing it, and I ended up hot gluing everything back together to hopefully hold it in there okay. So I don't know if I'm going to use this or not. We will see. It's pretty crappy and pretty heavy. I may use one of my go-to little mounts here that you can just strap the GoPro on. I got these several years ago. They're 30 degrees because that's the camera angle I fly. And I actually use these on my racers because it made for a good turtle mode fin when the camera wasn't on there. And some races here, they required when you get in the finals that you had to record your laps so they could make their videos and stuff with a HD cam. I actually used to just stick the run cam on here because it's lighter than the GoPro and less expensive, and don't care if I crash it as much. Anyway, it's neither here nor there, but this is super light and can just strap right onto the frame there. Yeah, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it too. We'll see how that goes. Okay, so now, as far as this frame goes, I have some, you know, I built this frame already, so we're not going to go through the instructions and all that. I'm going to be able to build this super quick, not like fumbling through everything like we did in the first video. Now, I have some mystery screws here that were not, and like I said, I'm probably going to send this video to the people I know at Diatone so they can check this out and address this. I couldn't find these M2x9 screws anywhere in the instructions or on the drawing, so I am not sure what they're for. I'm guessing that it's, if you're going to use the analog VTX, they have the mounts back here, and they give you mounting hardware with little silicone grommets and stuff to go in between, so maybe it's to mount the VTX on the back if you're using a analog, but we're going to be putting the Vista back there, and those won't be long enough, so I'm not sure what they're for because they were not on the instructions. They also give you these M2x3s. I'm going to guess that that is for mounting the camera mount on here, since this is pretty thin and maybe the regular camera screws might be too deep or something like that. Not 100% sure about that. And the last thing is they give you these stack screws. But this is only so if you're using a 30x30, right? So the stack screws go through the arms to hold the arms in place. And I can't pick this thing up off the bench. Come on now. The stack screws go through the arms here for a 30 by 30 board, but we're using a 20 by 20. They do give you 2 extra M9s to hold the I'm sorry, my dog is playing around behind me and it's extremely distracting. My 2 dogs back there. So they give you 2 extra of the M9s. My point being is they need to give you 4 of the M9s, because if you're going to use a 20 by 20 stack, there's no extra screws to hold the arms together. If you're not using these M28s to go through the arms to put the frame together, you don't have any extra screws. Luckily, I already had the big one, the DJI one that we already built. So with the 2 extra screws in there, now I have 8 screws, so I can do all the arms. So that's a thing of note. They need to give you the extra screws if you're going to use the 20 by 20 configuration so that you can put the arms on. Otherwise you have to dig up your own screws. Alright, so there's that. So let's slam this frame together real quick and get the motors on. You guys, and then, oh, the other thing is instead of the plastic cheeks, we have carbon fiber cheeks here. And like I said, I think with the weight and this deck not being so long in front and the combination of the carbon fiber over the plastic up here, I think this is going to hold up a lot better. I'm still suspicious of the cast aluminum, but we should be able to get the weight down and this thing should be pretty cool. So let's get this frame going. Another little thing of note when putting this frame together, these these screws, the head is fair. Even though the pan head is kind of wide, I don't know if you can tell, but they're fairly shallow. So make sure your driver is well seated in that hole, nice and straight, before you start torquing anything down. I already have one that is a bit compromised on the arm here, but I got it down good and tight. Let's hope that that is not the very first arm that breaks and I got to dig that screw out of there, but it probably will be. So there is that part. All right, so we got that all put together and the motor's mounted on there. The noise you hear in the background is wifey riding the exercise bike, so we'll have to put up with wifey's background noise because we share the. I don't know if they can see you in the camera, honey. The exercise room is part of the drone building room. The gym and the man cave are as one. Anyway, so I want to use my go-to nylon plastic screws for the stack, but I'm not sure if they're going to be tall enough because that's going to save us a ton of weight. So now we have some decisions to make, and because we're doing the custom build here, so we need to start kind of mocking things up and seeing where everything's going to go. So let's go down here and have us a look-see what's going on. So let's run this plastic screw in there, and I'm hoping I can use this, but I don't know if it's going to be tall enough to get both the stacks on and give us a decent separation in there. That's the back. I'm already liking this setup a lot better than the bigger one. So you can see the fuselage is nice and small and tight, and the props are nice and spread out. That's going to feel very nice in the air. Yeah, see, there's no way, unfortunately, that I'm going to be able to get those to stack on there cleanly because we have the ESC plug back there. I don't know if you guys can see that. So it looks like we have no choice but to go with the metal screws, so we're going to have to sacrifice a few grams, it looks like. Let's see any other way to do that. I mean, I do have like these little aluminum things, but then that means now we're not even going to go down that road because that's going to end up, if I use these aluminum deals, then I'm going to have to put a screw in the bottom of it, plus a couple of these aluminum stacks for the boards themselves, and I don't think that's going to save us any weight. I mean, I suppose I could weigh them and find out, right? Nah, we're not even going to go there. That's just going to end up being a bunch of pieces. Not even going to go down that rabbit hole, peoples. We are just going to go ahead and use the metal ones. Unfortunately. Well, I don't know if it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. I may have some, I wonder if I have some longer. I think I had some black nylon one. Oh yeah, here they are, but they're not longer. I think they're the same. Yeah, they're the same, so that's not going to do us any good either. Alright, it is what it is. So we'll just poke these in there. Nice tight tolerance though. I like that. They're nice and stiff in there. These are 28 millimeter, and the plastic nylon ones I have are only 25. So we need that extra 3 millimeters to be able to get this stack on there correctly. Yeah, see, that'll work. We may even need some little spacers in there, which Diatone does provide in the frame kit. They give you a whole plethora of these little things. And there's even, like, I don't know if you can see them, but there's little silicone rubber grommets in there. We're probably going to use some of those when we put the vista on the back here. It's pretty cool that they give you this little assortment. We'll find some kind of little, here, we'll dump them in this box right here for now so they don't go flying everywhere. You guys just hang out and watch me open a baggie. And the little silicone ones are all staticky cleaned in there. Come on out of there. Little varmints. Jeez. Come in. They're even clinging to the tweezers. That's some serious silicone. Come on out of there. Got it. Alright. So I think we're even going to need these little spacers that they give us here to get the boards just right. You guys saw me make the little cup of blue thread lock, but I forgot that Diatone already puts thread lock on all the little screws for us, so that is a pretty cool little bonus deal there. Saves us a bunch of time. I think those are all the same size. They appear to be. Eyeball it from the side. Yeah, they're all the same. Wait. Maybe they're not the same height. So make sure we have all the same ones on there. We don't want our board sitting sideways. No, they're the same. They're the same. So there's that. And this goes on top of that. Oh, that's perfect. We'll have just enough room to get our little nut on the top of there and hold the whole stack together. That's a beautiful thing. So now that we know that part, we got that mocked up. Let's kind of set this guy in there just because I want to see how much room I have for the battery lead. And we got plenty of cable. It seems to be a little longer cable on this Nebula than comes on the stock one. I don't have one handy, or I would check it out, but anyway. So that guy's going to go right there. That guy's going to go right there. Our little crossfire will go down in there just like I normally do, and they got nice little slats here to strap stuff down. So yeah, that looks good. So our battery lead, I like to pop out the side here. So we'll probably do the battery lead sideways like that. And I always take a propeller or two and measure and make sure they're not going to hit. Yeah, see, there's plenty of clearance there. But when you put the battery on itself, which I'll probably show you again later, but let me see. When you put the battery on itself, you're going to want to put it on this way and then plug it in like this, and that will always keep it clear from the propellers unless it for some reason comes unplugged. If you do it this way, it pulls that lead to the back and you can see what's going to happen there. It's going to get chopped. So keep that in mind. And I don't think we need much more than about that much length for our batteries. Yeah, that'll be fine. So let's kind of mark that up. Get that out of the way for now. Get that out of the way for now. And I think I did say we weren't going to use any of the plastics, but they give us these little things that go over the battery and slide onto the little arm there. So I'm going to stick them on. One is for an XT30. You can see the small there, and then one's for an XT60, which is pretty cool. They thought of most everything except for those spare screws that I was talking about earlier. Which side is our positive and negative on this bad boy? Old bad boy right here. Excuse me. Jeez, I don't see where it even says positive and negative on this thing. Oh, here we go. This side's the positive. Negative is the side closest to me. So we'll set that on there like that and kind of mark up the negative side, because I like to solder. And then we'll just make a little nick in there with our fingernail. So we mark that out, and we're going to clip it off. I like to put my battery lead on off the frame in case we get a droop of solder coming off the battery lead, because we got to get it pretty warm. We don't want that drip to be touching the carbon and short out. So I always like to kind of do that off the quad itself and before I do the motors. So that one's that's the negative there, and that's the positive there. Get this marked out here. Bring the negative just to the other side, and then mark the positive just to the other side. That should do it. Let's hope. Measure twice, cut once. Alright, so we are ready to get soldering. Oh, I want to show you guys something real quick. I'm kind of excited about this because it is going to be the first time that I have used this. Get some light on the subject over there. This is my brand new T12A soldering iron. It is like the benchtop version of a TS100. The thing heats up in freaking 10 seconds, and this is the first time that I'm going to be using it, so I'm pretty excited. All digital. Look at that. It's already up to 440, 450. In under 10 seconds, that soldering iron is ready to solder. Has sleep mode, motion detection in there, the whole 9 yards, 72 watts. So I'm a little excited. Got rid of my old jalopy soldering station. Well, I didn't get rid of it. I still have it. And it served me well for many years, so I can't really complain about it. But we're stepping up the game a little bit here. Sorry about the camera thing. Don't have a more professional studio for you guys. It is what it is, right? It is what it is. Are we back in? We're back in the game. So let's zoom in a little bit here. and see how this new soldering iron kicks some booty. Too much crap on the bench right now that we don't need at this moment. So first of all, we need to tin our wires, and let's also, where's that thing? I'm gonna stick that thing on here. Which way should I put the thing? We got positive, negative, that's gonna go that way. So I guess the thing needs to go on like this. Put it on there now before I forget. And I figure if it breaks, then I can just toss a zippy tie on later. Ain't no big deal. Right, right. So, let me get in camera here. Ooh, check that bad boy out. Get this tip tinned up. Because it's the first time I'm using it. So always wet a little solder on there first. And then wipe it off with the sponge so your tip is tinned. And then get a little solder on there to get it wet.
Hey, move, move.
Look at that. Just like nothing. Very nice. Very nice. That went on there fast enough that I was able to do it without burning the shit out of my fingers. With that nice hot, quick iron. Very nice. And that one got a little hot on me. I'm going to tin that up a little bit more. There we go. You see all that black on there? That's what you don't want. When you start getting all that black on there, that's a buildup of the resin frying away. So you want to, at that point, go ahead and wipe your iron off. And then as I showed you guys before, get your iron wet. Then we are going to melt the puddle and introduce the wire. Boom. Melt the puddle, introduce the wire. Wow, that soldering iron is slick. And there we go, super clean. That negative is definitely soldered on there good enough. But it's not really centered. I'm so anal about that stuff. Okay, anyway, we need a capacitor. I always use a capacitor. Here's one that's already got some leads on it. Looky there. Lucky us. Here's another one with leads on it. 35 volt. These leads are a little small. I don't know what I used that for. Must have been a smaller build. Are these going to be long enough to reach under there? Those leads are a little short. Little on the short side. These wires are a little thin, but this is a 35 volt, and we are using the Vista on 5S, so I think this is going to be okay. And it's long enough, even though I like to use the 1000, but with the Vista and everything being pretty clean, and I know for a fact that this T-Motor ESC is super clean. Let me zoom back out. I'm probably way out of camera here. I probably am not going to need any more than that, so we're just going to go with that for now. I think that's going to be okay. And I'm going to solder it to the bottom side of the ESC so I can run the wires underneath here, because there's plenty of clearance in here. And we haven't decided yet if we're going to do my crossfire antenna thing and stick it in there underneath the ESC like I normally do, or use the included Diatone mount. I said we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Tin that bad boy up. Always double check and make sure you get this right, because the old pop of a capacitor can really wake you up in the morning and tell you what. Boom. Wow, this soldering iron is nice. Nice. Come on now. I need my tweezers for this one, my fat old fingers. Boom. They have little spots for the capacitor wires right there, or legs if you put it up close. I had to mess with that one because it wasn't 100% soldered on there super good like I like it, and now it's sweating me. There we go. That soldering iron is slick. That's a freaking game changer right there. Having all that available heat. My old one was only 45 watts. This one's 72. So that's huge. Alright, I think we're good to go with that. So now we're going to slip this ESC on there. See how this battery lead's going to go. This goes over the standoff like that. That's pretty slick. Should hold it completely out of the way. Nice. I don't need it on there right now though, or it's going to get in my way when I'm soldering up these motor wires. Alright. So now we will start. Oh, before I forget, where are they? We're going to put these little things on there too, these little wire protectors, because they weigh like nothing. It's like throwing a feather on a dump truck. And I do like that idea of the prop protection. These are pretty slick, I must say. They're just some kind of little conduit type thing. So we'll get those on there. We'll get these motor wires trimmed up and soldered to the ESC, and we will take it from there. friends, there is that. Let's talk about a couple things here real quick. And I know I talk about this in just about every video, but I will reiterate, take your time with soldering. It is not a race. It will save you a ton of problems in the long run to do your soldering correct. And I see a lot of people wrapping the wires around on these ESCs. I don't know what that's all about. I do not recommend that. That's just extra. It looks pretty in a picture on Facebook, but it's just extra weight and trapping in heat. The other thing is if you can see my solder joints there, right? You don't need those BB sized balls of solder. That's just more extra weight and stuff you don't need. Just enough to make a nice, neat, clean, saturated solder joint. And make sure your iron is nice and hot. You don't want to, when you're tinning the wire, you don't want that iron on the wire forever. Get it nice and hot and get in and get out, because otherwise the solder leaches up the wire and then you have the wire stiff all the way out for a ½ inch and it doesn't have any give. I also leave my motor wires a little bit of slack in there in case I need to raise the ESC up for some reason, to slide something under there or whatever, and for a little stress relief if a motor gets popped off or pulled or something like that. But yeah, so there is that. So there is our solder job done. So now we have some more decisions to make. Get all these little pieces of trimmed wire out of the way. They're kind of short and I have a ton of these already, so I'm probably not going to save these. I don't know. I'll think about that later. But anyway, so now we're going to have some decisions to make and go on from here. Okay, so at this point, I think we can go ahead and put our flight controller on here because I'm only going to be soldering on the top here. I will put a pinout diagram on the screen now for a few seconds so you guys can check it out and screenshot it or pause it or whatever so you can see what's going on. But what we have here is right here is a selectable power out for the VTX, because a couple reasons I chose this board. I wanted the VTX switch, like I said, so I can power on and off the Vista on a switch. That, and it's a 20x20 and it's a F7. So it's a bunch of UARTs we're not going to be using. But on the back here is where the VTX positive, negative, and then there's TX, it's silk screened on here also. TX and RX1 for our Vista to hook up to. So we're going to solder on the top of there, and then I believe we can either use, I think we're going to use these four in the front here. Power ground 5 volt, RX3, TX3 for the Crossfire, because that's right in line with the Crossfire order. I'm not exactly sure yet where we're going to mount the Crossfire itself, but either way, we can go ahead and plug this in and stick it on and mock some things up, see where we're at. And this board orientation, I believe this goes to the back and that goes up like so. We forgot our little spacers in there. Let's not space the spacers. because I think we will go ahead and try to use the included little mount for the antenna and stuff. I don't think it's going to add that much weight that it's going to make that huge of a difference. And it'll keep everything nice and neat back there. I don't know, looking at this top plate, I guess we could just zippy tie this guy on the back of there. Like so. And that way we can still put our crossfire up here on the nose and solder right to the flight controller right there and do my little trick with the yeah, I think we're gonna do that instead of using that. It'll be lighter, more compact, easier to deal with, because otherwise I'm gonna have to find somewhere to mount the crossfire in the back for the antenna to reach, and this is just going to be like extra weight, and all it's really going to do is hold those antennas like so, which is kind of cool, I guess. I don't know, maybe we'll rethink that in a minute, but anyway, we can stick this on there like I said, because we are basically done with everything underneath. We just won't bolt it down in case we gotta. I'll probably run the camera wire in between there, just so it doesn't get like snagged up in the battery strap or anything like that, so nothing stupid happens to it. We'll have to scooch those wires around a little bit in there to get them to sit a little flatter, or maybe untwist them 1 or 2 times so they're not a big ball of wires, so they'll lay a little flatter in there, because they're going to be hidden anyway and held tight. It's not like they're going to flop out and get in the propellers. So there's that. So I guess the next thing to do will be to set up our vista, solder the wires on, put the antenna on, mount it on here so we can solder it up, and then do the crossfire, and we will be in good shape. So we can set this to the side for now while we get our little vista here prepared. And this is always a little bit of a challenge to get this dang antenna in here. The thing always pops out nice and easy, but it's a pain in the butt to put back in. To get it back on that little nubby once you get the I don't know why they give us such short antennas either. That's another thing I forgot to mention. This is the stock antenna that comes with a Vista, but I got these from my boys at Rush FPV that are just a couple cities over from me. These are custom long stem left-handed. They're fantastic freaking antennas. I got some super long ones they made me for my 8-inch, which are really freaking cool. I think you guys have seen that video. If not, go back and check it out. So this is always the challenging part, right? Is to get that little nubby pushed back over there. It can be a real freaking pain sometimes to get it to click. That one, unbelievably, it helps if you loosen these screws up quite a bit too. They're not going to fall out, don't worry. If one falls out, it's not a big deal. And loosen up all 4 of them so that whole plate is loose. That's what I like to do anyway, but you guys can do whatever the hell you want to do. I can't believe that popped in there so nice and easy on camera. Usually when I'm doing anything on camera, it is an absolute struggle. Alright, so next we just solder our wires on here with a little bit of length, and we can trim them off when we put them on the board, and then we'll mount this into the frame. Another great thing about this new soldering iron is it is super easy to swap out the tips on. And I am a firm believer in the right tip for the right job. That way you don't make a mess of things. Like, you only need this for the battery lead, the chisel tip for the battery lead and the ESCs, the motor wires. Everything else can be done and should be done with one of these little pointy tips. It only takes a second to change the freaking tips out and do it right. And then you got the nice little tip, you can get right in there. You're not smearing solder everywhere and struggling and fighting with it. So, crank up the irons. And let's eyeball where we at here. Where are we at with that thing? So we got a positive and a negative. My faithful wire strippers. And that soldering iron is already hot. That is freaking fantastic. Couple of dog hairs on there. Dog varmint hairs. Tin the tip. Re-wet it. Tin our wires. Get down and dirty on this bad boy right here. Roger. We got our voltage, then ground. This is going to be super. You guys aren't going to be able to see any of this without me like doing some crazy stuff with the camera. But I think you guys already know. And like I said, using the correct tip makes this job a hell of a lot easier. Go ahead and tin up all these little teeny pads, especially for these little teeny pads that are right next to each other like these guys are. And our RX and our TX. Boom. Instead of trying to get in there with that big old chisel tip and then fusing a couple pads together and having to scrape the freaking solder away and trying to get it separated again, and you guys know what I'm talking about. So much easier to just use the right tip for the job. Even though I can't see in there very well. A little off center on that one. That got her. So what I like to do here, tin these wires up. TX goes to RX, RX goes to TX. If you guys don't know, you probably do, but I'm just going to remember one wire. So I'm going to solder this yellow one to RX. So we're going to call yellow TX because it's going to go to the TX on the flight controller. So that's all I need to remember is yellow T. We're not using the other ground or the S bus. We don't need it. So yellow goes to T. That's all we need to remember. Yellow T, yellow T. So there we go. If you can see in there, that's that. And what's cool is I can shut this soldering iron off now because it heats up so freaking quickly. It does have its own little sleep thing, like I said. That thing is freaking awesome. I am loving that for sure. Let's get some of this mess out of here. Good enough for now. That'll do, donkey. That'll do. Okay. So I think we'll just go ahead and mount this right up on there. And we'll flash it and solder the wires and figure that stuff out in a minute. Oh, wait a second. We're going to need, and it doesn't matter if this is upside down or not, but we're going to need access to that. I don't know if that should go on the back. There's enough wire for that to happen. And then this can just kind of spool around like that. And zippy tie to the top plate. So that's the way we're going to mount her up. Then the camera comes out of the front, nice and neat. Get some screws, because this frame already has M2 little holes in it. I asked my friend to grab me some of these little screws. I was doing some custom radio stuff, and he bought me like a frickin' 1,000 of them. These ones aren't long enough, but I got plenty more. This is a custom build, so I hope you guys got some stuff sitting around to do it with. Figure out things as you go along for yourselves. It is not that difficult. Pretty sure that this one's going to be way too long. Absolutely. Looks like that one might be just right. That one's pretty long too. Only got some medium-sized guys in here.
I gotta remember it's gotta go to the frame also. So, what's this one? These are all super long. Super duper long. We don't need them that long. But if I don't have anything else, we're gonna have to use them. I reckon. Who the heck is calling me now? My phone just buzzed. I think that's the shortest one I got. Besides this one. That one might be too short after it goes through the frame. Let's check it out. Could just zippy tie it down or whatever. But I like to do things right the first time. We're done with it. Yeah, that one's not quite long enough. So it looks like the next shortest ones I have are these guys right here. If I can find 4 of them, or at least 2. I'd like to put 4, so that way if 1 or 2 fall out, I ain't sweating it. Because that can happen, as we all know. But I only have 2 of these ones. Let me get the glass on and take a peek in here. Well, well, the other option would be to like use the little standoffs. But as we know, they break. There's one, I think. Yep. All we need is one more.
Boom. And here's where some of this little stuff that they gave us is going to come in handy, because I'm going to use these here little rubber donuts they gave us. One thing I want to look at, how does this line up on these holes for the 20 by 20? I guess you just choose 2 of whatever holes, right? So we'll go with the ones furthest forward, I reckon. So we got a little more room to spindle the antenna in there. So I think there's plenty of room between this and the flight controller and the battery lead and all that stuff. Put them all in the front holes, and we should be golden, I would think. Then we're going to put our little silicone donuts on there.
Just to give it a little bit of clearance and a little bit of impact relief. We're getting food delivery, so the dogs are on guard. This is order our dinner. Hey! Alright, so there's that. Camera to the front, the stuff to the top. Slide this bad boy on there. Nice. Okay, so we just got those little silicones in between there. Very nice, very neat. Looks like we got enough clearance here. The camera to go underneath. Along with the front holes, there's no like impact area there. That's cool.
I'm down with that. I got some little finger twisties here. I don't remember where they came from, but they're just M2 nuts, but they're finger nuts. So we're just going to finger nut this on here real quick. Hold everything in place, and then I'm going to go have dinner. And we'll come back to this at a later time. Come on now. Like so. Get the other two on here, and then I'll go have dinner, and we will be back later. Stay tuned.